The shuttle's hatch hissed open, and a breeze of recycled air swept through the landing bay of Epsilon Training Base. The sound of boots echoed against metal walls, but the newest arrival moved without a sound. A girl stepped off the shuttle, alone, her posture calm and composed, almost statuesque. Her dark eyes scanned the sprawling facility with quiet curiosity, yet no flicker of surprise crossed her face. Around her, dozens of recruits bustled in clusters. Aliens with shimmering scales, towering exoskeletons, or glowing veins. They talked loudly, tested their strength, cracked jokes, and sized each other up. But the girl from Earth walked past all that, seemingly unaffected by the noise and chaos. The veterans stationed near the bay exchanged uneasy glances. "That's the Deathworlder," one muttered under his breath. "Heard she's from Earth. Last place anyone wants to get stuck on." "Quiet as a ghost," another replied. "But deadly. They say Earthlings survive on sheer stubbornness and pain." The girl didn't hear them. She carried no visible weapons or armor, only a simple training suit with the Coalition's insignia. She moved with a purpose that made even the seasoned soldiers feel off balance. As she walked toward the main complex, the crowd's murmur died down, replaced by whispers and sidelong glances. In the briefing room, the commander stepped forward, eyes narrowing as they landed on the new recruit. "Human cadet," he said, voice sharp. "Earth is known as a death world, where survival is earned in blood and bone. What skills do you bring to this coalition?" The girl simply nodded, her lips pressed into a straight line. She said nothing. The commander frowned but didn't push further. Silence was her answer. Other recruits scoffed. One alien with armored plating leaned over to his friend and whispered, "She's either crazy or broken." Training began immediately. The recruits were put through rigorous tests, agility courses, tactical problem-solving, combat drills designed to push their limits. The girl, however, barely moved. During agility runs, she sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing steady. When asked to participate in combat exercises, she stayed perfectly still, waiting. Instructors barked orders, urging her to engage, but she ignored them. Frustration spread quickly. The other recruits mocked her, calling her lazy, cowardly, and useless. Whispers of the silent Deathworlder who does nothing floated in the hallways. Some hoped she'd be expelled. But beneath her stillness, something was happening. Her breathing slowed to a rhythm that seemed almost unnatural. Her muscles, though relaxed, held a tension like a drawn bowstring. The veteran instructors noticed the subtle signals, the way her eyes opened sharply at sudden noises, how her head tilted slightly to track movement without shifting her body. One instructor, a grizzled war veteran, pulled aside a junior trainer. "Watch her. Not with your eyes, but with your gut," he said. "Humans don't fight like others. They survive." Days passed, and strange things began to unfold. During a group exercise meant to simulate a hostile boarding raid, the girl remained seated as her team scrambled to fight. Instead of panic or fear, she radiated calm. When an alarm blared, she didn't flinch. When simulated explosions rocked the training hall, she sat still as if anchored to the ground. Curiosity replaced mockery among some recruits. "What is she waiting for?" one asked. "Patience," another answered quietly. "A Deathworlder's greatest weapon." At night, in the dim corridors of the base, a few soldiers caught glimpses of her moving silently, practicing shadowy drills alone, disappearing into rooms without a sound. No one knew what she was preparing for, but it wasn't training like the others. The base commander grew intrigued, calling for a covert report on the girl. Her performance on simple drills was minimal, but her mental focus was off the charts. The data showed near-perfect control over stress and reflexes. Some called it meditation. Others called it something else, a survival instinct honed by a brutal homeworld. Yet the girl kept her secrets close. When asked about her past, she only said, "Earth taught me to survive by waiting, to see the moment before it comes." Her reputation was growing, quietly and unevenly. Some feared the calm before the storm. Others wondered if the girl who sat still might be the greatest threat or the greatest asset the coalition had ever seen. The countdown to the final simulation had begun, and the girl remained as silent and still as ever, her mind sharp, her body ready. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone was watching. Because on a death world, stillness was never weakness. It was the prelude to power. The next morning, the training grounds were alive with noise. Recruits sprinted, shouted commands, and dodged simulated attacks. The air hummed with tension and adrenaline. Instructors barked orders while recruits pushed their bodies to the brink. The girl from Earth sat quietly in the corner, cross-legged and still as a statue, her eyes closed. Around her, chaos unfolded like a storm. Metal clangs, laser blasts, shouted warnings, but she remained untouched by it all. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Why isn't she moving?" A young alien soldier asked. "She's supposed to be training with us." "Maybe she thinks sitting still is some kind of secret weapon," another sneered. "More like cowardice." One of the instructors, a harsh woman known for her impatience, marched over. "Cadet, move," she demanded. "This isn't meditation. It's survival training. Participate, or you'll be sent home." The girl opened her eyes slowly and looked up. Her gaze was calm, unreadable. Without a word, she rose, stretched just enough to reveal a body toned by hardship, then sat back down as if ignoring the command entirely. The instructor's face tightened. "You don't understand, do you? Here, we don't survive by waiting. We survive by action." The girl's lips pressed together, but she said nothing. The instructor stormed off, muttering under her breath. Other cadets snickered, some shaking their heads in disbelief. The girl was an enigma and an annoyance. That afternoon, the recruits faced a new challenge, the obstacle course. Towering walls, swinging beams, narrow ledges, and surprise attacks from automated drones. The course was brutal, designed to test speed, agility, and quick decision-making. Most cadets charged forward, sweat pouring, muscles straining, hearts pounding. The girl remained at the start line, eyes closed, breathing deep and steady. Some recruits laughed openly. "She's not going to move," one shouted. "Bet she'll fail before the first obstacle." But then, just as a drone swooped down to attack, she opened her eyes. In a flash, she rose, and instead of charging forward blindly, she moved with deliberate grace. No wasted steps, no frantic rush. She slipped through the drone's attack, balanced perfectly on narrow ledges, and bypassed obstacles with uncanny efficiency. The other cadets stared, jaws dropping. She wasn't fast like they were. She was something else, calculated, precise, almost like she was dancing with the course instead of fighting it. Instructors watched too, exchanging surprised glances. "She's not just still," one whispered. "She's studying the chaos, learning it." When she crossed the finish line, she was the last to start but far from last to finish. The timer showed she completed the course well within acceptable limits. Remarkable, considering her earlier stillness. Later, in the briefing hall, the instructor who had shouted at her confronted the girl again. "You move too slowly to survive in real combat," she argued. "You rely on waiting. That's a weakness." The girl met her eyes evenly. "Sometimes," she said softly, "waiting is the only way to survive. Rushing into chaos means dying faster." A hush fell over the room. Some recruits nodded, beginning to understand. Others scowled, unwilling to accept the idea that patience could be a weapon. Over the next few days, the girl's strange approach continued to baffle everyone. During tactical drills, while others shouted and fired, she observed silently. Her eyes flicked from one detail to another, memorizing patterns, calculating risks. When her turn came, she acted swiftly and precisely, exploiting weaknesses no one else had noticed. At night, rumors spread through the base. Some said she was trained by the Deathworld's harshest warriors. Others claimed she had been through brutal trials that no one else could survive. A few even whispered she was enhanced by unknown technology. Yet, no one truly knew. The girl said nothing about her past. When asked, she only replied, "Earth taught me that every move counts. Sometimes the best move is to wait." One evening, a group of recruits cornered her in the mess hall. Their faces were a mix of curiosity and hostility. "Why don't you fight like us?" one demanded. "Why sit still when there's so much to do?" The girl's expression was calm but serious. "Because sometimes fighting is not the answer," she said quietly. "Sometimes the answer is watching, learning, waiting for the right moment. On my world, rushing means death." The recruits stared at her, unsure how to respond. No one had expected such a quiet confidence. That night, as the base lights dimmed, the girl sat alone in her quarters, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. The coming days would bring the ultimate test, the simulation no one had ever beaten quickly. She knew what awaited her, and unlike others, she didn't fear it. For her, the real challenge was not moving too soon. And so, beneath the stars of a distant galaxy, the Deathworlder girl prepared, not with noise or haste, but with silence and stillness. Her moment was coming, and when it did, she would be ready. The entire training base buzzed with anticipation. The final test was announced, a simulation so brutal it had earned a reputation as nearly impossible. Recruits whispered its name with reverence and fear. The ultimate combat challenge. No one had ever finished it in less than 5 minutes. Many didn't finish at all. The simulation was designed to push every limit, physical, mental, and tactical. Hostile enemies appeared from every direction. Terrain shifted without warning, and environmental hazards like toxic gas and collapsing structures forced split-second decisions. Failure meant a reset and a hard lesson learned. The commander gathered the recruits in the large briefing hall, his voice booming. "This simulation is more than a test. It is survival itself. It will reveal who is ready to defend the coalition, and who will fall." Eyes turned to the girl from Earth. Despite her quiet nature and unusual training style, she was now the center of attention. Some recruits looked at her with skepticism, others with thinly veiled fear. When her name was called, she rose without hesitation. Her calm was unsettling. Where others showed nerves or excitement, she showed neither. She stepped toward the simulation chamber with steady steps, her face unreadable. The chatter of the room faded into silence as all eyes followed her. Inside the chamber, the walls glowed with shifting holographic landscapes, dense jungles, urban ruins, volcanic craters. The system was designed to throw everything at the recruit, a relentless gauntlet that few could survive, let alone master quickly. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, begin. Instantly, alarms blared and the simulation chamber's doors slid open with a hiss, releasing a wave of charged energy and stunned silence. The girl from Earth stepped out, her expression calm, almost serene. No one moved at first. The room was heavy with disbelief. 13 seconds. That was all it had taken her to complete what was believed impossible. Instructors gathered around the simulation control panel, their fingers flying over consoles, replaying footage and analyzing every detail. The screen showed a perfect sequence. The girl sat still for a breath, then flowed through the simulation like a shadow, every movement efficient, every strike fatal, every obstacle overcome without hesitation or error. "Replay the last sequence," the commander ordered, voice steady but laced with awe. The footage zoomed in. She ducked a laser blast by a hair's breadth, spun without losing balance, and disarmed multiple opponents with minimal effort. The floor beneath her shifted, but she adjusted instantly, never losing focus. A junior officer leaned over, whispering to a veteran. She didn't just survive. She controlled the simulation. The veteran nodded slowly, eyes narrowing. "That's what Deathworlders do." Survive, adapt, dominate. Meanwhile, the girl stood quietly, absorbing the astonished stares. She wasn't interested in their praise or disbelief. Her mind was calm, analyzing the simulation's design, the flow of danger, and how she had moved just enough, not too much, to remain untouchable. One of the lead instructors stepped forward, hesitantly. "Cadet, you must explain. How did you do it?" This simulation was built to overwhelm, confuse, and exhaust. How did you complete it so quickly and without injury? She met his gaze steadily. "I didn't rush. I waited for the right moment to act. On Earth, the deadliest threats are those you don't see coming. Moving too soon only makes you a target." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken experience. The room was silent again, but this time respect had replaced doubt. Outside the chamber, other recruits gathered, whispering in disbelief and fear. Some felt inspired, others threatened. One grizzled soldier muttered, "If she can do that, what hope do the rest of us have?" The girl's performance sent shockwaves through the base. Tactical instructors revised training schedules, incorporating lessons from her style, patience, observation, and minimal movement. But some senior officers resisted. "She's an anomaly," they argued. "No one else can fight that way." Despite the controversy, the girl's achievement could not be ignored. Media feeds from coalition worlds began sharing the news. "Earth Deathworlder breaks simulation record," headlines screamed. Analysts debated the implications. If one human could master this challenge, what else might they be capable of? In the quiet moments after the storm of attention, the girl retreated to her quarters. She sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. The weight of survival from her homeworld pressed against her mind, not as a burden, but as a reminder. On Earth, stillness had saved her life more times than she could count. Waiting had been a weapon honed over years in environments where any wrong move meant death. Here, the simulation was just another challenge, a test she had already learned to master before arriving. While the coalition debated her methods, the girl prepared for what lay ahead. The real battles would be nothing like simulations, unpredictable, brutal, and unforgiving. She knew the price of failure. She had paid it before. Her calm was not indifference. It was readiness, a readiness forged in silence and shadow. That night, as the base lights dimmed and the stars outside twinkled cold and distant, the girl from Earth sat still. The universe was vast and dangerous, but in her stillness, she was a force no one could ignore. 13 seconds had changed everything. The aftermath of the girl's record-breaking simulation rippled through the coalition training base like a shockwave. Whispers turned into debates, and debates into heated arguments. How had a single human girl from a death world bested a challenge no one else could? Some hailed her as a prodigy. Others suspected something far less natural. Officials huddled behind closed doors, reviewing every detail of her performance. The data was flawless. No glitches, no shortcuts, no anomalies. Yet, the speed and precision of her actions defied explanation. How could someone so calm, so still, dominate a test designed to overwhelm the best? Questions buzzed like angry insects. Was she enhanced? Implanted? Trained by secret forces? A senior officer speculated during a confidential meeting. "We need to investigate her background thoroughly." The girl, however, remained a mystery. She didn't brag or boast. She spoke little, and when she did, her words were measured and calm. "I survived because I waited," she said simply, "because I learned to see the moment before it came." Among the recruits, reactions varied. Some felt intimidated, afraid that her presence meant they could never measure up. Others were fascinated, eager to learn from her example. But many resisted, unwilling to accept that stillness and patience could be weapons as powerful as brute strength or rapid action. A group of cadets confronted her one afternoon, their faces a mixture of respect and skepticism. "You make it look easy," one said. "But how can stillness win battles? Isn't that just hiding?" She looked at them steadily. Not hiding. Observing. Learning. Timing is everything. Move too soon, and you lose. One skeptic scoffed. Words are easy. The real fight is chaos and blood. The girl nodded, as if agreeing. Then learn to find calm in chaos. That is the difference between death and survival. Instructors began to watch her more closely. She trained alone often, practicing subtle movements, shadowy techniques that few understood. It was clear her approach was unconventional, but effective. The commander summoned her privately one evening. "Your performance has unsettled many," he said. "Some want you out. Others want to study you. What do you want?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "To survive, and to teach." He nodded thoughtfully. "Then you will have opportunities, but be prepared. The path you walk is not easy. Not everyone will accept you." Word of the girl's success spread beyond the base. Coalition leaders on distant worlds took notice. Her story became a symbol, a human who used patience and stillness to conquer what others could not. Some called it the Deathworlder's gift. Yet the girl knew the truth was more complicated. Her calm was born from pain and loss, from a world where every moment counted and mistakes meant death. The Coalition's praise felt distant compared to the harsh reality she had survived. One night, she received a message from an old contact on Earth, a brief reminder that her past was never far behind. Survival was more than a test. It was a lifetime's battle. Despite the growing legend, the girl stayed grounded. She trained harder, studied tactics, and prepared for the challenges ahead. The simulation was only the beginning. The Coalition's future wars would demand more than speed or firepower. They would require minds sharp and steady, bodies ready to move only when the moment was right. The Deathworlder girl had proven she was one of those minds. But doubt lingered, both around her and within. Could she maintain this calm in real combat? Could her stillness hold against true chaos? The answers would come soon enough. The base was no longer the same place since the Deathworlder girl shattered expectations. She had become a symbol of patience, precision, and deadly calm. But with that reputation came pressure, both from within and without. The Coalition Command had decided it was time to test her beyond simulations. They arranged a live exercise, a war game against actual opponents. Trained soldiers from an allied species renowned for their aggression and tactics. This was no hologram or program challenge. This was real combat training with all the unpredictability and danger that implied. The girl listened to the briefing silently, her dark eyes steady. The room buzzed with excitement and nerves. For many, this was the true measure. Could she translate her simulation success into real victory? When the war game began, the opposing force attacked with brutal efficiency. Soldiers moved like shadows, firing with precision and communicating through complex signals. The girl's unit was outnumbered and outgunned. Panic flared in the eyes of some recruits. But not her. She remained still, waiting, watching every move the enemy made. She didn't rush to fight. Instead, she let the enemy reveal their weaknesses, their patterns, their overconfidence. Then, in a sudden burst, she moved. Swift and sure, she disarmed an opponent with a single strike, used the environment to block incoming fire, and guided her teammates with calm, clear commands. Her movements were fluid, economical, no wasted effort, no reckless risks. Her team adapted quickly, inspired by her composed leadership. They began to anticipate the enemy's moves, turning defense into counterattack. The opposing soldiers, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, shifted tactics, becoming more aggressive. But the girl's calm never faltered. She seemed to float with the battle, adapting instantly, using her patience as a weapon against their fury. Within minutes, her unit had gained ground, forcing the enemy into retreat. The war game ended with a clear victory for her side, an outcome no one had predicted. After the exercise, the commander approached her, a rare smile on his face. "You proved today that stillness and patience can conquer chaos and aggression. You led your team with unmatched skill." The girl nodded humbly. Survival depends on knowing when to act. Rushing leads to mistakes. Word of her success spread quickly. Soldiers who once doubted her now sought her advice, eager to learn how she maintained such control under pressure. Instructors adjusted training programs to include lessons from her tactics. Yet, amid the praise, the girl remained focused on what lay ahead. The real war would be harsher and more unpredictable than any simulation or exercise. She understood that patience alone wasn't enough. It had to be combined with strength, strategy, and resilience. She spent long hours training alone, sharpening her reflexes and studying alien combat styles. She meditated to keep her mind clear, blending her Deathworlder instincts with coalition techniques. One evening, a fellow cadet approached her quietly. "How do you stay so calm when everything around you is chaos?" She looked up, her eyes reflecting distant memories. "Because I've lived in chaos every day. Stillness isn't just waiting. It's control over fear and pain. It's knowing that the right moment will come, and you must be ready." Her words struck a chord. The cadet nodded slowly, a new respect dawning. As the stars wheeled outside the base windows, the girl from Earth sat quietly, preparing for the challenges still to come. She had conquered simulations and exercises, but the true test, the war that loomed ahead, awaited. And she would face it the same way she always had, with silence, stillness, and deadly precision. The base was alive with tension. News had arrived that a hostile force, long rumored to be gathering strength beyond the coalition's borders, was moving closer. Scouts reported enemy warships and ground forces assembling on a distant world, an ominous sign that a large-scale conflict was imminent. For many recruits, the anticipation was overwhelming. Whispers of dread mixed with excitement. The reality of war was no longer distant. It was at their doorstep. The girl from Earth observed it all with quiet focus. She had trained for this moment in countless simulations and exercises, but the real thing was different. The stakes were higher, the dangers unknown. She spent hours in the strategy room, poring over maps and intelligence reports. The commanders valued her insights, her ability to remain calm and see patterns others missed. She suggested tactics based not on overwhelming force, but on patience, ambush, and careful timing. Some officers were skeptical. "Your methods may work in training," one argued, "but in real combat, hesitation is death." She met his gaze evenly. Patience is not hesitation. It is the difference between surviving and dying. The night before deployment, the base was unusually silent. Recruits packed gear, shared quiet words with comrades, or sat alone wrestling with their fears. The girl retreated to a small alcove overlooking the stars. The vastness of space reminded her of Earth's brutal landscapes. The deserts, the jungles, the frozen wastes where she had learned to survive. Memories surfaced, times when waiting had been the only way to live, when every heartbeat was a choice between life and death. Those memories steeled her resolve. The fellow recruit approached hesitantly. "How do you stay so calm before a fight? Don't you feel fear?" She smiled faintly. "Fear is natural, but it can be a weapon or a prison. I choose to use it as a tool, to sharpen my senses, to guide my actions." He nodded, inspired. "I wish I could do that." "You can," she said softly. "It takes practice, and understanding that stillness isn't weakness." The next day, the fleet launched. The girl's unit was among the first to deploy on the warfront world, a rugged planet scarred by ancient wars. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Their mission was clear: hold strategic points, gather intelligence, and disrupt enemy movements. Every step was dangerous, every decision critical. From the moment they landed, chaos reigned. Explosions rocked the terrain, gunfire echoed through ruined cities, and shadows moved with deadly intent. But the girl remained composed. She moved through the battlefield with quiet precision, listening, watching, waiting. She directed her squad with calm authority, guiding them through ambushes and counterattacks. Her patience paid off. When the enemy advanced recklessly, She struck with swift, calculated force, turning the tide of small skirmishes. Her squad survived where others might have fallen. Yet, beneath her calm exterior, the girl felt the weight of every life depending on her decisions. Every choice was a gamble. Every second could mean survival or death. As the sun set on the war-torn horizon, the girl sat quietly in a temporary camp, eyes fixed on the stars. The battle was only beginning, and she knew the hardest tests were still ahead. But one thing was certain: she would face the storm with the same stillness that had carried her through every trial, calm, controlled, and deadly. The battle raged on for days, each moment stretching into a test of endurance and will. The girl from Earth moved through the chaos like a shadow, silent, deliberate, deadly. Her squad trusted her implicitly, drawing strength from her calm in the face of relentless fire. The enemy was fierce and cunning, throwing wave after wave of attacks. Yet no matter the pressure, the girl remained still in her mind, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her actions were precise, each one turning the tide in favor of her team. One particularly brutal encounter tested her resolve. Surrounded and outnumbered, her squad was pinned down in a ruined city block. The enemy's firestorm threatened to overwhelm them. Panic whispered at the edges of the squad's nerves. But the girl held firm. She surveyed their surroundings, noting escape routes and weak points. Then, with calm authority, she ordered a feint. A small squad would draw the enemy's attention while the rest slipped through a hidden alley. The plan was risky, but necessary. Her teammates moved as one, trusting her judgment. The feint worked. The enemy shifted focus, buying precious seconds for the squad to regroup and counterattack. The victory was hard-won, but it solidified her reputation. Word spread that the Deathworlder girl was more than a myth or a legend. She was a force to be reckoned with. After the battle's intensity, a rare quiet settled over the battlefield. The girl found a moment alone beneath the stars, the cool night air a stark contrast to the heat of combat. She thought of Earth, its harsh landscapes, its brutal lessons, the stillness that had saved her countless times. She realized that her greatest strength was not just survival, but transformation. Through stillness, she had turned fear into clarity, hesitation into action, chaos into order. The coalition commanders honored her with a medal, an acknowledgement not only of her skill, but of what she represented: the power of patience, the value of control, and the strength found in silence. Yet, the girl remained humble. She knew the battle was only one chapter in a longer war, and survival was a constant challenge. But she also knew that no matter what came next, she was ready. Her story spread across the coalition worlds, inspiring others to rethink what it meant to be strong. Not all strength was loud or fast. Sometimes it was quiet, patient, and unstoppable. The Deathworlder girl had proven that stillness was not weakness. It was a weapon, one forged in the harshest fires of survival. And with that calm certainty, she stepped forward into the future, ready for whatever challenges awaited.